Well, joining us now to discuss the media's coverage or the lack thereof, the contributing editor for NewsBusters, Geoff Dickens. Geoff, it's so good to have you there, Skyping in from Washington. Welcome back to America's Forum.
Thanks for having me back on, JD and Morgan.
First obvious question is this, Geoff. What's behind the media's non-coverage of that hearing?
Well, it's pretty clear what's going on. You have a double standard at work. This Gruber testimony and what his remarks about the stupidity of the American voter and lack of transparency needed to pass the ACA or Obamacare is damaging to the administration. And as we've seen for the entire almost 2 terms now, the liberal media just does not want to cover the scandals or anything that hurts this administration. And as Morgan pointed out, you did have Fox News covering the hearing on Tuesday for almost an hour, 55 minutes, and none of the big 3 networks, ABC, CBS, or NBC, covered any of the hearings live. And the other cable networks, CNN and MSNBC, they didn't cover any of the hearings live. They did. I think CNN did one soundbite during that time. The hearing, they did one soundbite of the Gruber apology for 38 seconds. MSNBC did 2 soundbites for a total of 66 seconds. But if you wanted C-SPAN-like coverage, you had to go to C-SPAN or Fox News because you weren't going to find it on CNN or MSNBC.
Now, Geoff, some pundits have said non-coverage of Gruber's hearing is a result of news fatigue about Obamacare and how it's been debated and covered endlessly already. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think a few weeks ago I made the point, just imagine if this was the Bush administration and you had, I don't know, a Dick Cheney or maybe someone of lower stature coming out and saying, well, in order to get the build support for the Iraq war, we had to depend on the stupidity of the American voter, and we needed a lack of transparency. Can you imagine the hype and just how much coverage there would have been on the networks and on CNN and MSNBC? It would be never ending.
Well, let's talk some. Now, you touched on the cable networks, but a lot of folks still look at those evening newscasts on the big 3, the alphabet network. So breaking down the coverage, was this a situation where some of the alphabets finally paid some attention to Gruber in the wake of this, or did the Senate news on that CIA report crowd all of that out? We've got a little more than a minute left here, Geoff.
Well, that evening of the Gruber hearing, the CIA report led the newscast. When they got to the political news, that was the first political news story that did with CIA. All 3 networks did do the Gruber hearing. NBC finally did it after multiple. NBC Nightly News took, I think, over 20 days to get to it, but they finally covered it. But again, it was sort of just a brief drive-by. Yeah, this happened today, and we're moving along, and they haven't covered it since.
And let me just ask you this in closing. You mentioned NBC. They went for, I believe, more than 20 days, something like a month without mentioning it. So Brian Williams on NBC Nightly News finally got to it, although it ran second tier to the Senate CIA report. Right,
that's right. It was NBC Today showed the Gruber, but yeah, Nightly News took like a month to get to the story, and that's pretty remarkable considering again how big Gruber was in terms of what he said and how revealing it was how Obama's signature legislation was
fair enough. Geoff, we appreciate you spending time with us, and America's Forum continues right after this.